You get the atmosphere. I mean, I did find it harrowing. I mean,
Did you find it harrowing?
I did.
All of Britain is in absolute shock over a newly leaked medical file, carrying the devastating verdict that Princess Kate is in the final stages of terminal cancer and has only 6 months to live. Panic ensues as thousands flock to the palace gates, wiping away tears of heartbreak. But behind this earth-shattering death sentence lies no medical tragedy. Rather, it is the most ruthless, filthy theft in royal history, orchestrated to permanently erase Kate's presence and pave the way for an uncontested throne. The puppet master is none other than the very person playing the role of the grieving figurehead before the media's lenses. Camilla. Blinded by greed, she stealthily broke in, stole, and leaked the top-secret file to the press to destroy her daughter-in-law. However, the hunter is entirely unaware that she has swallowed poisoned bait whole. That dark red medical record is a flawless trap set by the hands of Prince William himself. What will happen when the UV blacklight switches on, exposing Camilla's glowing, guilty hands right in front of King Charles? How will William personally crush his enemy with a brutal sentence of exile? And what steep price awaits the traitor when her mask is completely ripped away? 2 in the morning. The palace corridors are submerged in a thick, heavy darkness. Camilla walks pressed against the wall. Her soft velvet shoes swallow every sound. She is draped in a dark wool coat, her hand hidden inside the pocket, fingering a brass key. Tonight, she sheds the facade of the submissive, enduring woman she has played for decades. Tonight, she is the hunter, the sole target, King Charles's private study, the vault of the darkest secrets and the most fatal vulnerabilities of this family. For months, toxic jealousy had been boiling in Camilla's veins like poison. She could not stomach another second of watching the crowds scream Kate's name, the media exalting Kate. Every smile, every wave from her daughter-in-law felt like daggers, carving into her own scandalous past. The ghost of Diana had never died. It had merely shifted into a new form, younger, more radiant, and infinitely more beloved by the people. Camilla knew perfectly well that as long as Kate stood there, the crown on her own head would forever be nothing but borrowed jewelry. To seize absolute power, to ensure no one dared look at her with contemptuous eyes, Kate had to disappear. Not through a loud divorce, but through an ultimate tragedy that would force the public into pity. She slid the brass key, secretly swapped from Charles's coat, into the lock. The heavy oak door creaked open. Camilla slipped inside. The scent of candle wax and aged oak rushed into her nose. She pulled out a tiny flashlight and turned it on. The thin beam swept across oil paintings, massive bookshelves, and stopped right at the black steel safe hidden beneath the desk. Camilla's hand, adorned with expensive diamond rings, began to turn the dial. The passcode was Diana's birthday, a pathetic weakness of Charles that she despised, but right now it became a powerful weapon. The dial clicked to a stop. The steel door swung open. Camilla thrust her hand deep into the darkness of the safe. She shoved aside sealed envelopes and velvet boxes of medals. Finally, her bright red painted fingers touched a cold, textured leather surface. A dark red file. The word "Top Secret" was stamped diagonally across the left corner. Camilla's heart pounded frantically, threatening to burst from her chest. She yanked the file out and placed it on the wooden desk. Hands trembling with excitement, she flipped open the leather cover. Pristine white pages bearing the Royal Hospital's logo struck her eyes. The bolded text appeared crisp and clear. Patient: Catherine, Princess of Wales. Biopsy result: terminal carcinoma. Prognosis: 6 months. Camilla held her breath, her eyes widened, glued to every letter. A jolt of electricity ran down her spine. An overwhelming sense of glee surged within her. A cruel smirk stretched the wrinkles at the corners of her mouth. It was perfect. An undeniable medical death sentence. That perfect woman was going to die. The thorn in the dynasty's side, the final barrier preventing her from monopolizing the throne, was about to drop off on its own. Without a second of hesitation, Camilla hurriedly pulled out the phone hidden in her wool coat. The light from the screen cast onto her ambitious face, turning her features sharp and distorted. She turned every page of the file, photographing everything. The diagnosis, the prognosis, even the confirming signature of the royal physician. Every saved photo was another nail driven into Kate's coffin. Once certain everything was in sharp focus, Camilla opened an encrypted messaging app. The recipient was London's most ruthless black market information broker, a bottom feeder who feasted on the tragedies of the elite. She sent the entire batch of photos, along with a razor-sharp message. "Tomorrow's front page. Leave no trace. Burn her to the ground for me." The message read, "Sent." Camilla quickly wiped the chat history clean. She shoved the dark red file back into its exact place in the safe and locked the steel door tight. Everything was arranged perfectly, as if untouched. The study door clicked shut. The darkness swallowed Camilla's silhouette down the corridor. Deep down, she was convinced she had just delivered the most fatal, decisive, and cleanly executed strike. Tomorrow morning, the world would weep for Kate, while she would step up to embrace the role of the magnanimous stepmother, a benevolent queen bearing the dynasty's sorrow. But Camilla was dead wrong. Right in the corner of the ceiling opposite the safe, a tiny red dot blinked continuously in the dark. A micro camera hidden in the spine of an old book had recorded everything. That dark red file was not Kate's weakness. It was the very grave that the righteous side had deliberately dug, just waiting for the greediest soul to jump in on her own. 7 in the morning, London exploded. Across every newsstand, bold, massive black headlines slammed into the eyes of millions. Kate's death sentence, only 6 months to live. Royal tragedy repeats. Television networks interrupted all daily programming for emergency broadcasts. Social media collapsed under tens of millions of searches. Everywhere, citizens buried their faces in their hands, sobbing. Crowds began gathering at the palace gates, bearing white roses and tears of outrage, demanding the royal family speak up. A tsunami of public opinion crashed directly into the palace, ruthless and uncontrollable. Inside the breakfast room at Clarence House, the air was as thick as lead. Camilla entered the room. She had chosen a jet black silk dress, her hair impeccably combed. The moment she saw Charles and William standing by the dining table, she immediately launched into the performance of a lifetime. Camilla brought a lace-trimmed handkerchief to the corner of her eyes, squeezing out a few fake tears, her voice choking and breaking. "Charles, William. Oh, dear God, what are those scum journalists out there doing? How could they fabricate such a cruel and vicious piece of news about Kate? I truly couldn't even breathe reading those words. We have to find whoever dared to spread this garbage rumor and throw them out." Charles stood in silence by the window. The king's face was rigid, his empty eyes staring out at the crowds gathering beyond the iron gates. He did not reply with even half a word. William stood like a monolith next to the oak table. He wore a gray suit, his eyes as cold as a 1,000-year-old iceberg. His hands were clasped tightly in front of him, blue veins prominent on the backs of his hands. He just stood there, staring intently at Camilla. His gaze drilled deep into her soul, peeling back every layer of her vile deception. Camilla felt a rush of cold air down her spine, but greed and arrogance had blinded all her warning senses. She stepped forward, reaching out to touch William's shoulder to offer an elder's comfort. But the exact moment her diamond-studded fingers were about to brush his coat, William snapped a step back with absolute finality. The gesture of rejection was so brutal it bordered on sheer contempt. "Do not touch me," William gritted out every word, his tone low and husky but carrying destructive power. He turned on his heel and walked away, leaving behind a razor-sharp remark that sliced through the silent air. "Scavengers will soon choke on the very thing they just swallowed." The dining room door slammed shut. Camilla stood rooted to the spot. A triumphant smile slowly crept back onto her lips. She assumed William's coldness was merely the manifestation of a man completely broken by his wife's impending death. She thought she had won, but she had no idea that right beneath the palace grounds, a ruthless hunt had officially begun. In a secret security room devoid of a single window, massive computer screens cast a pallid blue light onto the faces of two men. Charles sat slumped in a chair, rubbing his temples vigorously with both hands. William stood with his back straight, eyes glued to the video replaying on the screen. The black and white footage was unforgiving and sharp. It captured every single second of last night's crime in its entirety. From the moment Camilla unlocked the safe, thrust her hand inside, and pulled out the dark red file, to her vicious smile as she photographed each page of the medical record. Everything was nauseatingly clear. Charles exhaled heavily, a sound laden with extreme exhaustion and bottomless disdain. "It's her, my wife, your queen. She truly sold out this family just for that petty jealousy." William showed no surprise whatsoever. This plan had been drawn up by him. Over the past few months, inside information about Kate had been continuously leaked. Secret schedules, personal habits, stories twisted to smear the princess's image. William knew there was a massive rat hiding within the family, and he was determined to drag it out into the light using the most ruthless physical evidence. William reached for a tiny glass vial sitting on the steel table. Inside was a transparent liquid, colorless and odorless. 3 days ago, he had personally brought this vial of solution back from a military chemistry lab. Smart water, an invisible spy chemical. Once it clings to flesh or objects, it dries instantly, completely invisible under normal light. It cannot be washed off with soap. It cannot be scrubbed away with alcohol. It would stick there stubbornly for weeks on end. William himself had donned rubber gloves and meticulously brushed this invisible solution onto every pristine, white page of the fake medical record, from the paperclip and the edges of the leather cover, to the location of the signature. That terminal cancer medical record was a brilliant theatrical act orchestrated by him and his private physician. Kate was not sick at all. She was absolutely safe at a remote country estate, far away from all prying eyes. The dark red file tossed into the king's safe was nothing but poisoned meat, a flawless trap for a beast starving for power. And Camilla had taken the bait. She had clawed at that meat with her own bare hands. William pocketed the glass vial, His eyes blazed with the fire of retribution. "Lock down all access points to the West Wing immediately," William ordered the captain of the Royal Guard standing at attention in the corner of the room. "Prepare the closed reading room. It is time to end this cheap charade. We are not calling the police. We are not issuing a statement. We are going to personally strip away every last breath of her power." 1 in the afternoon. Camilla was sitting in her dressing room, leisurely selecting a diamond-studded chrysanthemum brooch. She was ready for her public appearance that afternoon to continue her role as the grieving grandmother. Suddenly, the room's door burst open without warning. 2 of William's trusted bodyguards walked in, their faces stone cold. "Emergency summons from Prince William and King Charles. You are required to come with us immediately." One bodyguard spoke in a flat monotone, lacking a single word of honorific. Camilla frowned, annoyance flashing across her face. "Summons? I am preparing for... immediately." The bodyguard cut her off, taking a step forward in a completely overbearing manner. Knowing she couldn't resist, Camilla huffily picked up her expensive alligator leather handbag and walked with an arrogant posture. She was escorted through endlessly long corridors, but not toward the main drawing room, nor the sunlit study. They were heading down to the ground floor, turning into a narrow, dark stone hallway. The destination was the closed reading room, a frigid stone chamber specifically used for storing classified documents, without a single window and with only one solid wood door reinforced with iron. As Camilla stepped inside, the heavy door immediately slammed shut behind her back, locking with a dry click. The room was bathed in a sickly yellow light. The air was thick and suffocating. Charles was sitting on a leather armchair in the corner of the room, both hands tightly gripping the head of his walking cane. William stood dead center in the room, towering, his shadow stretching long across the stone floor, blocking any chance of escape. "What is going on that you two would call me down to this suffocating and dark place?" Camilla raised her voice, trying to project the authority of a queen to mask her creeping unease. "The press is going crazy out there. We need to be out there putting out the rumors about Kate, not hiding away down here." "Rumors?" William took a step forward, his voice terrifyingly calm. "Who leaked that rumor, Camilla?" She took a half step back, eyes wide, feigning a look of deep offense. Her hands gripped the straps of her handbag tight. "What on earth are you talking about, William? You dare imply that I am the one who sneakily leaked those trashy papers to those scum journalists? You've lost your mind. I have spent my entire life protecting the honor of our family. I love Charles. I have endured every humiliation from the public to stand by you. You have no right to insult me like this." She started screaming. Crocodile tears threatened to spill. She dragged out all her love, sacrifice, and honor to cling to. "Search my room! Check every corner! Check my phone! I swear to God I never touched any damn file!" William stood still as a stone statue. He let her scream, letting her play the role of the wrongfully accused victim to the fullest. His silence only made Camilla panic more. She shrieked louder, trying to cover up her lies with volume. When Camilla started panting, out of words, William slowly reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a black, cylindrical flashlight, its metal casing cold. "You said you never touched that file," William said, his tone devoid of a single drop of mercy. "You said we should check. Then let's see how the truth answers." He reached to the side and flicked off the main light switch of the room. Darkness crashed down instantly. Pitch black. You couldn't even see your own fingers. Camilla scrambled back in a panic, her back slamming against the closed door. Absolute terror began to invade her. "William, what kind of insane game are you playing? Turn the lights on immediately," she hissed, her voice cracking with terror. Click. The sound of the flashlight switch rang out dryly. A blinding, ghostly beam of ultraviolet UV light tore through the darkness. The beam swept straight from William's hand, pinning Camilla down like a spear of light. The very moment the UV light touched her body, a horrifying and bizarre spectacle revealed itself. All 10 of Camilla's fingertips suddenly blazed a glaring neon green, glowing radiantly in the dark as if contaminated by radioactive material. That deadly green light wasn't just on her hands. It imprinted crystal-clear handprints on the cuffs of her black wool coat. It clung tightly, shining blindingly on the diamond face of her wedding ring. It dragged into long, jagged streaks across the expensive alligator handbag she had clamped under her arm, the mark of the invisible chemical, the mark of bottomless greed, the mark of a sneaky thief turning every page of a poisoned file. The truth was materializing brilliantly, incinerating her entire flawless victim mask. Camilla froze, her pupils dilated to the max, her breath caught in her throat. She looked down, staring at her own devilishly glowing hands. She tried to rub her hands hard against her silk dress, but the harder she rubbed, the more the neon green streaks spread brutally, branding even more undeniable evidence onto her own body. No further accusations were needed. No video recording was necessary. The physical evidence was grafted onto her skin, screaming out the ultimate lie. Charles leaned on his cane and stepped out of the dark corner, stopping right at the edge of the UV beam. His eyes, looking at the woman who once shared his bed, no longer held a single trace of pity, only sheer, utter disgust. "The game is over, Camilla." The king's voice was freezing cold. "No, Charles, it's not like that. Listen to me." Camilla stammered, her glowing hands flailing in the air as if trying to ward off a swarm of invisible demons. The arrogance, the authoritative exterior had completely collapsed, leaving only the pathetic state of someone caught red-handed. William stepped right up to her face, his eyes like knives plunging straight into her soul. He pressed the button to turn off the UV light. The room's electric lights flicked back on, returning the chamber to its cruel and humiliating reality. "You stole the file. You sold us out. You lusted for my wife's death to monopolize power," William said, each word dropping like a sledgehammer. "That file was a fake. Kate is perfectly healthy. And you just dug your own grave." The sky beneath Camilla's feet completely caved in. The spectacular con had burst open. The hunter had permanently become the prey, caught perfectly in the trap. There were no police sirens or public trials, only a swift, devastating internal purge. 3 massive bodyguards entered the room, ruthlessly stripping Camilla of her phone and alligator handbag. "Take off the ring," William commanded, his voice crushing any hope of resistance. Trembling and weeping, Camilla looked to Charles for a final sliver of mercy. But the king had already turned his back. Slowly, she pulled the royal ring from her finger. The metallic clink against the stone table marked the total collapse of her empire. She was dragged through a dark servant's passage, stripped of her dignity, and shoved into a waiting, blacked-out van. After a grueling 7-hour journey into the freezing, desolate Scottish Highlands, Camilla was locked inside a dilapidated stone-walled estate. There was no cell service, no servants, and no escape. In the dark corner of her freezing cell, a small television suddenly flickered to life. The live broadcast showed tens of thousands cheering outside Buckingham Palace. Prince William stepped onto the balcony, and right beside him stood Princess Kate, radiant, powerful in a red dress, and perfectly healthy. As the crowds screamed Kate's name in pure joy, every dark conspiracy was shattered. Camilla sat shivering in the shadows, staring at the dazzling triumph of the woman she had tried to destroy. The traitor was permanently buried in isolation, while the monarchy thrived in the light. The brutal, perfect sentence had been carried out. Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it